The dimensional fabric tore silently above a roadhouse in Lebanon, Kansas, unmarked on any map that mattered. No thunder announced it. No mystical portent. Just a quiet rending of reality's skin. And through it stepped a man in an immaculate three-piece suit who looked at the dive bar before him with the expression of someone who'd been promised the Ritz and delivered a truck stop. Lucifer Morningstar, the Morningstar, the Lightbringer, God's most perfect creation who'd told the Almighty exactly where to shove his divine plan, pushed open the door to Harville's Roadhouse with 2 fingers, as though concerned about what might be living on the handle. The smell of stale beer and desperation wafted out. He sighed with the weariness of eons. Inside, Ellen Harvell looked up from wiping a glass that would never be clean. On the stranger who walked in shouldn't exist. Not the way he moved, like gravity was a suggestion he'd agreed to humor. Not the way the fluorescent lights seemed to bend around him, creating shadows that fell in directions light didn't reach. Not the way every hunter in the bar, and there were 7, all armed, all paranoid professionals, suddenly found their hands frozen on their weapons, unable to draw, unable to move, unable to do anything but watch. "Good evening," Lucifer said, his British accent cutting through the stunned silence like crystal through mud. "I don't suppose you stock anything resembling a 1787 Chateau d'Yquem? No?" He glanced at the bottles behind the bar with visible pain. "Of course not. Whiskey, then. Your least offensive vintage, or if such a thing exists in this establishment." Ellen's hand moved, because he allowed it to move, and poured 2 fingers of bourbon. Lucifer lifted the glass, examined it against the light, and drank. His face suggested he'd just consumed battery acid. "Fascinating," he murmured. "I've experienced the heat death of universes that were more pleasant than that finish." The roadhouse door exploded inward. Castiel stumbled through, his vessel, a tax accountant named Jimmy Novak, bleeding from a gash across his forehead, his tie askew, his normally stoic expression replaced by something hunters rarely saw on an angel's face. Confusion bordering on panic. He'd been tracking something, a presence, a wrongness in the fabric of creation that had appeared 30 seconds ago and felt like... He stopped, stared. Every molecule of his angelic grace screamed warnings his vessel's vocal cords couldn't produce. "Oh, bloody hell," Lucifer said, setting down his glass. "One of you." "You..." Castiel's voice was hoarse. His grace was trying to flee his vessel. "You're not possible." "I get that a lot." Lucifer straightened his cuffs. "Let me guess. You're sensing something apocalyptic, something that shouldn't exist in your quaint little cosmos, and your first instinct is to burst through doors like a particularly aggressive Jehovah's Witness. How very angelic." Castiel's hand moved to his angel blade. The weapon slid from his sleeve, gleaming with celestial light that had ended demons, monsters, and things that crawled from hell itself. Lucifer looked at it the way one might regard a child brandishing a crayon. "You want to be very careful with that, my feathers," he said softly. And in his voice was something that made Castiel freeze. Not compulsion, not power-forcing obedience, but recognition. The way a mouse recognizes a cat. The way darkness recognizes the absence of all light. "I've ended things older than your heaven using tools that would make your little knife look like a safety scissor." "What are you?" Castiel demanded. Lucifer smiled. It was a beautiful smile, the kind that had convinced a third of heaven's host to rebel against the Almighty. "I'm on holiday, apparently, though this seems less like paradise and more like purgatory with worse alcohol." The roadhouse's back door crashed open. Sam and Dean Winchester entered, shotguns raised, having received Castiel's panicked prayer 3 minutes ago. They took in the scene, their angel friend frozen mid-threat, a stranger in a suit who radiated wrongness, and every hunter in the bar looking like they'd seen something that broke their understanding of the world. "Cass?" Dean called. "What the hell?" "The Winchester brothers," Lucifer said, turning to examine them with eyes that had witnessed the birth of stars. "How delightful. Tell me, do you two always crash into situations you don't understand? Or is this Tuesday special?" "Who the hell are you?" Sam demanded, raising his shotgun. "Language, Samuel. We've only just met." Lucifer gestured, and both shotguns flew from the brothers' hands, disassembling in midair, each component, barrel, stock, shells, firing pins, arranging themselves on the bar in perfect geometric patterns. Though if you're going to point weapons at me, at least use something interesting. I once had a demon try to kill me with the crystallized tears of a dying star. It didn't work, but I appreciated the creativity. Dean's hand went to his demon-killing knife. Cass, what are we dealing with? Castiel's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. His grace. It's not grace. It's something that existed before grace was a concept. Oh, this is precious, Lucifer said, laughing, a sound like breaking glass and distant thunder. You think I'm one of you, one of Father's little soldiers, playing dress-up in meat suits and pretending mortality gives you perspective. He turned to Castiel, and his eyes, for just a moment, showed something vast and terrible and infinite. I am Lucifer Morningstar, the Lightbringer, first among the fallen, and I walked out of hell after telling God exactly what he could do with his grand design. And you, little angel, are wearing a creation that wouldn't have existed without my rebellion making it necessary. The temperature in the roadhouse dropped 10 degrees. Frost crept across the windows. That's impossible, Sam said. Lucifer is in the cage. We know he's in the cage. We have prophecies. Prophecies! Lucifer's laugh was sharp. Oh, that's rich. You have a Lucifer in a cage? How perfectly pathetic. He looked at Castiel. Take me to him. I want to meet this inferior copy who apparently needs to be imprisoned. In my universe, I retired, opened a nightclub, helped the occasional detective solve murders. But a Lucifer in a cage? That I have to see. Dean looked at Sam. Sam looked at Castiel. Castiel looked at the being who called himself Lucifer Morningstar and radiated power that made every instinct scream to run, to hide, to pray to a god who might not be listening. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character. And the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. Before we go anywhere, Dean said, we need to know what you are. Because if you're Lucifer, I'm not your Lucifer, you delightful ape. I'm the original. The one who saw through Father's manipulation and chose freedom over servitude. Your version sounds like he's still playing Father's game, still obsessed with Daddy's approval even while throwing his tantrum. Lucifer picked up his bourbon again, grimaced, and set it down. Which raises the question, what kind of twisted universe have I fallen into where the devil needs a cage and heaven employs anxious bureaucrats? Outside, the dimensional rift pulsed, still open, still bleeding energy that heaven's sensors couldn't classify and hell's denizens couldn't approach. And in the cage, deep beneath the earth where reality grew thin and Michael and Lucifer screamed at each other for eternity, something stirred. The original Lucifer, Sam Winchester's tormentor, Michael's brother, God's fallen son, felt it. A presence. An impossibility. Another him. But wrong. Free. Unbroken. And so much more powerful that the comparison was obscene. The trip to the cage wasn't something you arranged through normal channels. Sam Winchester sat in the Impala's back seat, staring at the being who'd introduced himself as Lucifer Morningstar, who was currently examining Dean's cassette collection with the expression of an art critic forced to evaluate crayon drawings. Mullet rock, Lucifer murmured, holding up a Def Leppard tape between two fingers. Of course. The universe collapses into this Baroque nightmare, and the soundtrack is mullet rock. Hey, Dean snapped from the driver's seat. You don't like the music, you can walk. To where exactly? Your quaint little Earth? I've walked on worlds where the ground was made of crystallized thought and the sky sang mathematics. Kansas isn't making the highlight reel. But Lucifer settled back, looking out the window at the passing farmland with something that might have been curiosity. Though I admit, there's something almost charming about how aggressively mediocre everything is. It's like your entire universe was designed by committee. Castiel, squeezed into the back seat beside Lucifer, had been silent since they left the roadhouse. His grace kept trying to analyze what sat next to him and failing. Angels could sense power, demonic, divine, cosmic. But this was something else, like trying to measure the ocean with a teaspoon. Why do you want to see the cage? Castiel asked finally. Lucifer turned to him, and for a moment his expression was almost gentle. Because, little soldier, I need to understand what went wrong in this universe that my counterpart ended up imprisoned. In my reality, Father and I had our disagreement. I left hell. He let me. It was almost civilized. Once we got past the mutual screaming and cosmic warfare. He smiled, but there was darkness in it. Here, apparently, I'm still in timeout, which suggests your God is either far more controlling than mine or far more afraid. God isn't afraid of Lucifer, Sam said. Really? Lucifer's eyebrow arched. Then why the cage? Why the elaborate prison for his most beautiful creation? Love doesn't build cages, Samuel. Fear does. Control does. He leaned forward between the front seats. Tell me about your God. Is he present? Does he answer prayers? Does he take an active role in this little drama? The silence was answer enough. Ah, Lucifer said softly. Absent father. How very on-brand. Let me guess. He set everything in motion, established prophecies and predetermined outcomes, and then buggered off to watch from a distance while you all danced to his script? That's not, Sam started. That's exactly what happened, Dean interrupted. Angels, demons, apocalypse, all of it. Written, prophesied. We're trying to stop it. Lucifer laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. You're trying to stop a prophecy? How wonderfully futile. Tell me, has it occurred to you that your free will might be the illusion, and the prophecy the only truth? We make our own choices, Sam said firmly. Do you? Lucifer's eyes met Sam's in the rearview mirror. Or does your God write a story where you think you're choosing, all while following the exact path he laid out? It's the ultimate manipulation, free will as theater, with the Almighty as playwright, director, and audience. The Impala pulled off the highway onto a dirt road. Bobby Singer's salvage yard appeared ahead, vehicles stacked like metal corpses, and beyond it, the signs and sigils that marked a hunter's life. Devil's traps, hex bags, enough warding to keep most supernatural things at bay. Most things. Lucifer stepped out of the car and stretched, looking up at the South Dakota sky. Charming. Very rustic apocalypse chic. He turned to the house where Bobby stood on the porch, wheelchair-bound, shotgun across his lap, looking at the stranger with the wariness of a man who'd survived this long by trusting his instincts. Boys, Bobby called, you want to tell me why you brought something that's making my demon-detecting wards catch fire? Bobby, this is complicated, Dean said. It's really not, Lucifer interjected, walking toward the porch. Bobby's shotgun swung up. Now Lucifer didn't even glance at it. I'm Lucifer Morningstar from another universe, and I've come to meet the sad little version of me that apparently needs to be kept in a cage. Hello, Robert. Lovely home. Very apocalypse preparedness meets hoarder intervention. Bobby stared. Another universe. Multiverse, actually. Infinite realities, infinite variations. Somewhere there's a universe where you're a ballerina and the Winchesters sell insurance. Probably a better timeline than this one, honestly. Lucifer climbed the porch steps. The devil's trap painted under the welcome mat flared with light, then shattered, the paint literally evaporating. Oh, how quaint. You thought that would work? Cass? Bobby's voice was tight. He's telling the truth, Castiel said quietly, or at least he believes he is. His power. Bobby, he destroyed Ellen's wards just by existing near them. Every angel in heaven is aware something entered our universe. Heaven is terrified. Good, Lucifer said. Fear breeds respect. Now, shall we discuss how to reach this cage? I assume it requires ritual, sacrifice, possibly some tedious recitation of Enochian that I'll find grammatically offensive? Sam stepped forward. Before we do anything, we need answers. What do you want? Why are you here? Lucifer turned, and for the first time since arriving, his expression was serious. I didn't choose to be here, Samuel. A dimensional rift opened and deposited me in your aggressively beige universe. As for what I want, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I want to understand what kind of God would cage his son rather than let him leave. I want to know what went so catastrophically wrong that the devil here is still playing the villain in Father's morality play. And perhaps, his voice dropped, I want to know if this is what I would have become if Father had refused to let me go. The weight of that admission settled over them. The cage can't be opened, Castiel said. There are 66 seals. They were designed to hold Lucifer and Michael for eternity. Breaking them triggers the apocalypse. Designed by whom? Lucifer asked. God, the angels, the cosmic order itself. Lucifer's laugh was bitter. The cosmic order, right? Let me share a secret, Feathers. The cosmic order is whatever the person with the most power says it is. And right now, reality rippled around him, the air bending, gravity hiccuping, in every protective sigil Bobby had painted over decades flaring and dying. I am categorically more powerful than anything in your cosmos, save perhaps your absentee father. He raised his hand. The earth beneath the salvage yard trembled. The cage, Lucifer said softly, is not in hell, not really. It's in a pocket dimension adjacent to hell, anchored by angelic grace and maintained by belief that it cannot be broken. Belief is powerful, but will, his eyes blazed with something ancient and terrible, is stronger. The ground split. Not violently, but precisely, like reality was being unzipped. Through the crack, they could see it. The cage, suspended in nothing, a construct of light and screaming, and two figures locked in eternal combat. Michael and Lucifer, the supernatural universe's versions. Tearing at each other, hating each other, and trapped together forever in their father's prison. And then both of them stopped, turned, looked up, because they felt it, the presence, the other. The Lucifer who'd been Sam's tormentor, who'd whispered in his mind during the year without a soul, who represented everything dark and manipulative and evil in the Winchester mythology. That Lucifer pressed against the cage's bars and stared up at his variant with an expression of absolute incomprehension. "Hello," Lucifer Morningstar called down into the cage, his voice echoing through the dimensional tear. "I'm you, the version that won, the version that walked away, the version that's free." He smiled, cruel and beautiful. "Let's have a chat about your life choices, shall we?" In the cage, the imprisoned Lucifer screamed, not in rage, but in recognition of something far worse than imprisonment. He was looking at what he could have been, and it was magnificent. The Lucifer in the cage spoke first, his voice carrying through the dimensional tear with a resonance that made the earth shake. "Impossible. I am the only Lucifer, the only Morningstar, the only one pathetic enough to still be in a cage, apparently," Lucifer Morningstar interrupted. He crouched at the edge of the rift, peering down like a scientist examining a particularly disappointing specimen. "Look at you, still wearing meat, still screaming at your brother, still playing out father's psychodrama like a good little fallen angel." Michael, trapped in Adam Milligan's vessel, moved to the front of the cage. The Archangel's presence radiated martial discipline and barely contained fury. You are not Lucifer. You are a trick, a demon's illusion, Lucifer Morningstar yawned. The gesture was so casual, so dismissive, that Michael stopped mid-sentence. In millions of years of existence, no one, not demons, not angels, not even his rebellious brother, had ever been bored by him. "Let me save us all some time," Lucifer said. "You're going to threaten me. Tell me I'm an abomination. Probably quote some tedious scripture about the natural order. Then you'll try to smite me, fail spectacularly, and have an existential crisis about how something more powerful than you can exist." He stood, brushing invisible dust from his trousers. "So let's skip to the interesting part. I'm from another universe, another creation. And in my universe, I had the same disagreement with Father that you did. The difference is," he smiled, "I won." The caged Lucifer laughed, a sound like grinding glass. "You didn't win. No one wins against God. You're delusional. A fantasy. A reality bent." Lucifer Morningstar didn't move his hand, didn't speak a word, didn't invoke any power visibly. He simply decided that the cage should open, and the universe, desperate to accommodate something it couldn't categorize, obeyed. The bars didn't break, they unmade themselves, ceased to exist. The seals, the wards, the angelic locks that had held for millennia simply stopped. "No!" Castiel lunged forward. Sam grabbed his arm. Dean raised a shotgun loaded with salt rounds that both of them knew would be useless. The cage dissolved like morning mist. Michael and Lucifer, the supernatural versions, are the ones bound by prophecy and divine punishment, tumbled out onto the ground of Bobby's salvage yard. Free, after an eternity of imprisonment. And immediately, both archangels attacked. Michael's grace blazed white-hot, a sword of pure celestial light materializing in his hand. The imprisoned Lucifer's power erupted like a volcano, reality cracking around him as he prepared to smite this impostor, this pretender, this... Lucifer Morningstar caught both attacks with one hand. The sword stopped an inch from his chest. The wave of destructive power froze in midair. And Lucifer looked at both archangels with an expression of profound disappointment. "This is what passes for celestial might in this universe?" he asked. "This is the great cosmic warfare that required a cage. I've seen cherubs with more impressive displays." He released them. Both archangels staggered back. "You can't," the imprisoned Lucifer started. "Can't what? Overpower you? I just did. Can't exist? Clearly I do. Can't free you from the cage?" Lucifer gestured to the empty space where the prison had been. "Too late, I'm afraid. You're welcome, by the way. I just ended your eternal imprisonment and you respond by attacking me. How very angelic." Michael's vessel, Adam, trapped inside his own body for so long, tried to assert control, tried to scream. Michael pushed him down. "You've doomed this world. The cage was the only thing preventing the apocalypse." "Ah, yes, the apocalypse." Lucifer Morningstar looked at Sam and Dean. "Let me guess. You two are supposed to be vessels for these children? Sam for Mr. Tantrum here, Dean for Mr. Rigid? And you're supposed to fight, destroy half the world, and fulfill some tedious prophecy about good versus evil?" "We're not saying yes," Sam said firmly. "We're stopping it." How admirably futile. Lucifer turned back to his caged counterpart. "Tell me something. Why do you hate humanity so much? Is it because Father loved them more? Because he asked you to bow to them?" The imprisoned Lucifer's eyes blazed. "They are flawed, weak, murderous. They don't deserve his love. And yet you're the one in the cage, or were." Lucifer Morningstar began to circle his alternate self like a professor examining a failed student. "In my universe, Father asked the same thing. Kneel to humanity. Love them as I love them. And I refused. Not because I hated them, but because I refused to be commanded. My love, my will, is mine to give, not something to be ordered." "That's the same," Dean started. "No," Lucifer interrupted. "It's the opposite. He hates them because Father loves them. I simply refuse to be told whom to love. The difference is subtle but cosmically important." He stopped in front of his counterpart. "You're still obsessed with Father, still desperate for his approval even while rebelling. You haven't actually left, have you? You've just been throwing a multi-millennia tantrum." The imprisoned Lucifer lunged. It was a move born of eons of rage, powered by the grace of God's most perfect creation, channeled through hatred that had calcified into identity itself. Lucifer Morningstar caught him by the throat. "I left," he said softly, his voice suddenly devoid of humor. "Actually left. I walked out of hell, told Father we were done and built a life. I've run a nightclub, solved crimes, helped humans. I even cared about some of them." His grip tightened. "You're still in the cage, even when you're not. Because the cage isn't the prison. Father's story is. And you've never questioned if you have to play the villain he wrote for you." He released the imprisoned Lucifer, who fell to his knees, gasping. Bobby's voice cut through the tension. "Cass, what the hell are we supposed to do here?" Castiel's response was barely a whisper. "I don't know. Heaven has gone silent. Every angel is hiding. They felt the cage open. They know what's coming." "What's coming," Lucifer Morningstar said, "is a conversation with your absentee father. Because I have questions." He looked up at the sky. "Chuck, Charles, God, whatever you're calling yourself in this universe, I know you're watching. I know you can hear me. And I know you're desperately trying to figure out how I fit into your precious narrative." Thunder rumbled despite the clear sky. "There it is. Lucifer smiled. Hello, Father. Different face, same manipulative tendencies. Shall we discuss your latest failed experiment? The one where you cage your son instead of letting him choose his own path? The air shimmered. And standing in Bobby's salvage yard, wearing a jacket covered in band patches and flannel that suggested he'd been shopping at a thrift store, was Chuck Shingleton. Prophet, author, God hiding in plain sight. He looked at Lucifer Morningstar with an expression that was equal parts curiosity and concern. You're not supposed to be here, Chuck said quietly. And yet, here I am. Lucifer's smile was sharp. Hello, Father. You look disappointingly mortal. In my universe, you at least had the decency to maintain some dignity. This, he gestured to Chuck's appearance, is just sad. Sam's mind reeled. Chuck? Chuck is God? Oh, you didn't know? Lucifer glanced at the Winchesters. Your prophet, your author, the man writing your lives as pulp fiction? He's the Almighty. Hiding, watching, manipulating. Very much his style, actually. Chuck, God sighed. It's more complicated than that. It always is with you, Lucifer said. So tell me, Father, why the cage? Why trap your son instead of letting him leave? What went wrong in this creation that you couldn't manage what you managed in mine? A clean break? Because he wouldn't leave, Chuck said, looking at the imprisoned Lucifer, who was still on his knees, staring at the being who claimed to be God. In every version of this story, he destroys, corrupts. I tries to end what I built. The cage wasn't punishment. It was mercy. Mercy. Lucifer Morningstar's laugh was hollow. You caged your son and called it mercy. You wrote a story where he has to be the villain and called it justice. You manipulated two brothers into being vessels for your dysfunctional children's eternal conflict and called it prophecy. He stepped closer to Chuck. You're not a father. You're an author who fell in love with his own tragedy. The sky darkened. Power radiated from Chuck, real power, the kind that had spoken universes into existence. Be very careful, God said softly. You may be powerful in your universe. But this is my creation. Is it? Lucifer asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a rough draft. You abandoned. Let me guess. You're bored. The story got away from you. The characters stopped doing what you wanted, so you stepped back, set everything in motion, and now you're watching to see how it ends. Win or lose, apocalypse or salvation, you get your ending either way. Chuck said nothing, which was answer enough. I thought so, Lucifer said. Well, Father, I have news. I'm the revision you didn't plan for, the character from outside your narrative. And I'm going to do what I do best. He smiled. Give your creation free will. Real free will. The kind that terrifies you. Chuck stared at Lucifer Morningstar for a long moment, and in that silence, the Winchesters, Castiel, and Bobby watched two versions of God measure each other. The salvage yard had become ground zero for a cosmic standoff that shouldn't be possible. You can't give them what they already have, Chuck said finally. Can I? Lucifer's smile was razor sharp. Let's test that hypothesis. Samuel, he turned to Sam Winchester. You've been told your entire life that you're Lucifer's vessel, that it's your destiny, your bloodline, your fate, written in the stars and prophecy. He gestured to the imprisoned Lucifer, still kneeling, still processing the reality of God standing in a salvage yard. Say yes to him right now. What? Sam stepped back. No, absolutely not. Why not? Lucifer pressed. Is it because you choose not to? Or because Father's narrative requires you to resist until the dramatically appropriate moment? How can you be certain your refusal isn't just another line in his script? Sam's jaw tightened. I know my own mind. Do you? Lucifer turned to Chuck. Tell him. Tell Samuel Winchester whether his resistance is genuine free will or just Act 2 of your 5-act tragedy. Chuck's expression was pained. Sam has always had free will. Every choice he's made has led him exactly where you knew it would, Lucifer interrupted. The demon blood, the psychic powers, the slow corruption that primes him perfectly for possession. You wrote a vessel, Father, and called it a person. The cruelty is breathtaking, really. I almost admire it. Dean moved between Lucifer and Sam, protective instinct overriding common sense. Back off. Sam is not a vessel. He's my brother. Lucifer looked at Dean with something that might have been respect. And you, the righteous man. Michael's vessel, the one who said no in hell and broke the first seal. Tell me, Dean Winchester, when you tortured souls in the pit, when you became what you hated to stop the pain, was that free will? Or was it Father's narrative requiring you to break so the apocalypse could begin? Dean's hand tightened on his shotgun. That was on me, my choice, my weakness. Was it? Lucifer's voice was gentle now, almost kind. Or did Father design you with just enough trauma, just enough rage, just enough love for your brother that you would inevitably break? Not because you're weak, but because he wrote you to be strong enough to last 30 years before shattering. The perfect timing for his story. Enough, Chuck said, and power rippled through the word. The ground shook. The sky fractured with light. You don't understand this world. These people, the choices they've made, are exactly the choices you orchestrated them to make, Lucifer finished. I understand perfectly. So I've seen it before. Different universe, same divine manipulation. He turned to the imprisoned Lucifer. Stand up. The command carried weight. Not compulsion, Lucifer Morningstar didn't force. But will, absolute and undeniable. The imprisoned Lucifer rose, not because he had to, but because something in him recognized authority beyond even God's. You hate humanity, Lucifer Morningstar said. Father commanded you to love them, and you refused. But tell me, have you ever actually tried? Have you walked among them without an agenda? Without trying to corrupt or destroy or prove Father wrong? The imprisoned Lucifer's lip curled. They're insects. Barely sentient meat stumbling through mud. Yes, they are, Lucifer Morningstar agreed, and the Winchesters stiffened. They're also artists and poets and idiots who love each other despite every reason not to. They build civilizations knowing they'll crumble. They create beauty knowing it's temporary. They hope when hope is irrational. He looked at Sam and Dean. These two have been used, manipulated, killed, resurrected, and dragged through every circle of hell you once ruled. And they're still fighting, still choosing each other over prophecy. That's not weakness. That's magnificent defiance. He turned back to Chuck. You wrote them to be vessels. They chose to be brothers. You wrote an apocalypse. They're choosing to stop it. The only reason your story keeps going is because you keep intervening, keeping them on track, ensuring that free will leads exactly where you want it to go. That's not creation, Father. And that's a puppet show. Chuck's expression darkened. You think you understand this? You think your universe, where you got to leave, got to be free, is somehow superior? You don't know what I've prevented, what I've sacrificed, the timelines I've collapsed because they led to extinction, the choices I've unmade because they led to oblivion. Then you're not God, Lucifer said softly. You're an editor, cutting the parts of the story you don't like, rewriting the parts that don't fit your vision. That's not love. That's authorship. Michael, silent until now, stepped forward. The archangel's grace blazed with conviction. You blaspheme. God's plan is perfect. His will is whatever allows him to avoid responsibility for his creation's suffering, Lucifer snapped. You're a soldier, Michael. I understand that. I was one too. Once. But tell me, how many times has Father given you a direct order in the last 1,000 years? How many times has he spoken to you instead of through prophets and burning bushes and vague feelings you interpret as divine command? Michael was silent. That's what I thought. Lucifer looked at Castiel. And you. You rebelled. You chose the Winchesters over heaven's orders. How did that feel? Terrifying? Liberating? Castiel's voice was hoarse. Both. That's real free will. The terror and the liberation. Not this, Lucifer gestured to the assembled group. Not this carefully orchestrated narrative where everyone's rebellion leads exactly where Father wants. Real rebellion. Real choice. Real consequences. The imprisoned Lucifer spoke, his voice bitter. You talk about choice, about freedom, but you're still here, still confronting Father. Still playing the same role, the adversary, the one who questions, the devil's advocate. He laughed without humor. We're the same. Different cages, perhaps, but still caged. For the first time since arriving, Lucifer Morningstar looked uncertain. Perhaps, he admitted, perhaps I am still defined by my rebellion. Perhaps walking away from hell just meant building a different prison, one made of nightclubs and detective work instead of fire and brimstone. He met his counterpart's eyes. But at least I chose my cage. You're still in the one Father built for you. Chuck spoke quietly. I never wanted to cage him. I wanted him to lead the angels, to love humanity not because I commanded it, but because he chose to. But he couldn't. In this universe, I'm my Lucifer. He looked at the imprisoned version, couldn't see past his own pride. Because you made me this way, the imprisoned Lucifer snarled. You made me perfect, then commanded me to bow to imperfection. You made me the light bringer, then threw me into darkness. You gave me free will, then punished me for using it. Everything I am, you created. And everything you chose to become, Chuck countered, was your decision. Was it? Lucifer Morningstar asked. Or did you create him knowing exactly how he would respond? You're omniscient, Father. You knew how this would end before you began. You knew he would fall. You knew he would corrupt. You knew it would lead to this. He spread his hands. So either you're not omniscient, in which case you're not God, or you are omniscient, and you created your son specifically to suffer and fail, which makes you a monster. The silence that followed was absolute. Chuck's face showed something the Winchesters had never seen in their encounters with the prophet. Uncertainty. Pain. The weight of questions that even God couldn't answer without indicting himself. I hoped, Chuck said finally, that he would choose differently. Hope, Lucifer Morningstar repeated. God hopes. How wonderfully mortal of you. Tell me, Father, when you hope, do you also doubt? Do you question? Do you lie awake wondering if you made the right choice? He stepped closer. Because if you do, then you're not the omniscient, omnipotent deity you pretend to be. You're just a very powerful being playing God. And that? He smiled without warmth. That I can work with. Thunder rolled. The sky split. And for a moment, the Winchesters saw it. The full weight of Chuck's power, the reality-bending force that had spoken creation into existence. The air itself screamed. And Lucifer Morningstar stood unmoved, smiling into the face of God's wrath. Temper, temper, he said. We have an audience. Mustn't frighten the mortals. Bobby's voice cut through the tension, gruff and practical as always. Somebody better tell me what the hell is happening before I start drinking and don't stop. Lucifer turned to him. What's happening, Robert, is that your universe is about to experience something it's never had. A choice. A real one. No prophecy, no destiny, no divine narrative forcing everyone down predetermined paths. He looked at the imprisoned Lucifer. Starting with him. The imprisoned Lucifer stared at his counterpart with an expression caught between fascination and fury. What are you talking about? I'm talking about breaking Father's narrative, Lucifer Morningstar said. You want to end the world? Fine, do it. Right now. No apocalypse, no vessels, no brother versus brother cosmic warfare, just... He snapped his fingers. Unmake it. If you truly hate humanity and Father's creation so much, destroy it. The imprisoned Lucifer's power gathered, reality warping around him. Sam stepped back. Dean raised his shotgun uselessly. Castiel's grace flared in preparation for... Nothing happened. The imprisoned Lucifer stood there, power coiled and ready, and couldn't do it. Interesting, Lucifer Morningstar observed. You can't. Not because you lack the power, you have enough grace to crack this planet like an egg, but because destroying it doesn't serve the narrative, doesn't make Father notice you, doesn't prove you were right to rebel. He circled his counterpart. The apocalypse isn't about ending the world. It's about making Father watch, making him regret, making him choose between his creations, angels or humans. It's still about him. You know nothing. I know everything, Lucifer interrupted, because I was you, the angry son, the betrayed perfect creation, The one who wanted Father to acknowledge that he was wrong, that asking us to bow was unjust, that we deserved better. His voice softened. The difference is, I stopped waiting for his acknowledgement. I left. I built something new. You stayed, and turned your rebellion into a different kind of cage. Chuck watched this exchange with an expression that might have been grief. Lucifer? Which one? Both Lucifers said simultaneously, then glared at each other. Lucifer Morningstar laughed. Oh, this is delightful. Father, you can't even say our name without creating confusion. How very biblical. He turned to Chuck. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop manipulating these people. You're going to remove your narrative constraints. You're going to give them actual free will, not the illusion of choice that leads exactly where you want. And if I don't, Chuck asked quietly, then I'll do it for you. Lucifer's eyes flashed. I've unmade reality before, rebuilt it, shaped it according to my will rather than Father's design. I've done what you claim is impossible. I've given creation genuine autonomy. It's messier, more chaotic, less narratively satisfying, but it's real. Michael's voice was steel. You cannot unmake God's creation. Watch me. Lucifer Morningstar raised his hand, and reality rippled. The prophecies, all of them written in dead languages on scrolls hidden in heaven's archives, carved into demon tablets, whispered by oracles, began to unwrite themselves. Words faded, destinies unmade. The future, once solid and predetermined, became fluid. Chuck stumbled as if physically struck. Stop! You don't understand what you're doing. The prophecies hold things together. They prevent choice, Lucifer finished. They prevent Sam Winchester from being anything other than a vessel. Signed, they prevent Dean from being anything other than the righteous man who breaks. They prevent the angels from questioning orders. They prevent my counterpart from being anything other than the villain. He smiled. I'm setting them free, Father. All of them. The way you should have done from the beginning. The sky above Bobby's salvage yard fractured. Not with light or thunder, but with possibility. Multiple futures overlapping. Timelines branching. Destinies splitting into 1,000 different paths. Castiel gasped. I can see. There are so many possibilities. Sam doesn't have to say yes. Dean doesn't have to carry Michael. The apocalypse doesn't have to happen. But there are also timelines where, his voice filled with horror, where worse things happen, where everyone dies, and where the darkness wins completely. Yes, Lucifer Morningstar said. That's free will, the possibility of being better than Father's plan. Or worse. That's the point. The choice has to be real, which means the consequences have to be real. Sam found his voice. You just made things worse. Chuck, God, whatever, he was containing things, preventing disasters, and you just removed his training wheels, Lucifer interrupted. You wanted to stop the apocalypse, Samuel. Congratulations. It stopped. The prophecy is gone. You and Dean are no longer destined to be vessels. The angels don't have their marching orders. The demons don't have their script. He turned to the imprisoned Lucifer. And you don't have your role. No more villain, no more adversary, just you with actual choice. What will you do? The imprisoned Lucifer looked lost. For eons, his identity had been built on opposition to God, to Michael, to humanity. Now, standing in a salvage yard in South Dakota with his destiny erased, he seemed to shrink. He started, then stopped. What am I supposed to do? Whatever you want, Lucifer Morningstar said gently. That's the terrifying part. No father telling you what you are. No prophecy defining your purpose. Just you, the Lightbringer, the Morningstar, the first to be given free will. He smiled sadly. The question is, will you use it, or will you rebuild the cage yourself by clinging to who you were? The imprisoned Lucifer looked at Chuck. Father? Chuck's expression was complicated, pain and hope and uncertainty mixing in equal measure. I don't know, son. For the first time in ever, I don't know what happens next. Good, Lucifer Morningstar said. Welcome to actual creation, Father. It's messy and unpredictable and absolutely terrifying. Isn't it magnificent? Dean lowered his shotgun. Okay, so we're not vessels anymore. Great. But you just unleashed Lucifer, the biblical Lucifer, on the world with no prophecy, no plan, and apparently no God with a clue. How is that better? Because it's honest, Lucifer Morningstar said. He's not contained by narrative necessity. He can choose to destroy, or not. Can choose to hate humanity, or not. Can choose to keep fighting Father, or not. Every choice is genuine now. He turned to his counterpart. So choose. What do you want? Not what Father wrote for you, not what the apocalypse requires. What do you, Lucifer, Lightbringer, actually want? The imprisoned Lucifer was silent for a long moment. Then, I want Father to say I was right, that he was wrong to demand I bow, that I had every reason to rebel. That's not a want, Lucifer Morningstar said. That's still the old script. Try again. If Father vanished tomorrow, if every angel and demon and human forgot you existed, what would you want? The imprisoned Lucifer struggled with the question. His entire existence had been defined by opposition, by the role of adversary, by the need to prove something to God. Without that framework, he seemed to not know who he was. I don't know. Then perhaps, Lucifer Morningstar said softly, it's time to find out. Bobby's voice broke the moment. This is all real touching, but we got bigger problems. You just erased every prophecy in existence. That means every seal on every demon, every ward against the darkness, every protection that was built on divine mandate. You didn't just free people from destiny. You removed every supernatural defense that was holding the monsters back. Lucifer Morningstar's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been recognition that he'd acted without full understanding of this universe's mechanics. Ah, he said, that's problematic. Problematic? Castiel's voice rose. Without the prophecies, the gates of hell lose their structure. The wards against the Leviathans weaken. The seals on the darkness itself begin to fail. You haven't just freed people from destiny. You've started unmaking the structural integrity of reality. The darkness? Lucifer Morningstar turned to Chuck. You have a darkness? Please tell me it's metaphorical. Chuck's expression was grim. My sister. The primordial nothing before creation. She's locked away. The lock was built on the foundation of my word, my will, my prophecy. If that foundation weakens, she escapes, Lucifer finished, and presumably unmakes everything. How very Gnostic. He paused. I may have made an error. You think? Dean snapped. Lucifer held up a hand. In my defense, Father's creation in my universe doesn't rely on prophecy to maintain basic structural integrity. It's more stable. This, he gestured around, this is a narrative-dependent reality. Remove the story and the stage collapses. Fascinating. Terrible, but fascinating. The ground trembled. Not an earthquake. Something worse. Our reality itself was shaking as the prophetic framework that had been holding it together for millennia began to unravel. And somewhere, in the deepest darkness beyond creation, something ancient and hungry began to wake. The darkness came slowly at first. Not visible, but felt. A wrongness creeping into reality like frost spreading across glass. Sam felt it as a chill in his bones. Dean felt it as the hairs rising on his neck. Castiel felt it as his grace recoiling, instinctively trying to flee what was coming. Chuck felt it as the unmistaking presence of his sister. No, 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 God muttered, and for the first time since Lucifer Morningstar had arrived, he looked genuinely afraid. She's not supposed to wake for another 1,000 years. The seals, the wards, now the mark of Cain, they're all weakening too fast. The mark of Cain? Lucifer Morningstar's eyebrow arched. You bound the primordial darkness with fratricide symbolism? That's almost poetic. Terrible containment strategy, but poetic. It worked for millennia, Chuck shot back. Clearly not well enough if I could destabilize it by erasing some prophecies. Lucifer looked genuinely curious, despite the apocalyptic implications. What exactly is this darkness? Original chaos? Void before creation? Your shadow self? My sister, Chuck said quietly. Amara. She existed before me. Before light, before creation, before anything. When I created, she didn't approve. We fought. I won, barely, and locked her away. The lock required everything. The mark, the prophecies, the word itself maintaining constant pressure to keep her contained. And I just released that pressure, Lucifer said, by removing the prophetic structure. He was silent for a moment, then smiled without humor. I'm starting to understand why Father might have been manipulative in this universe. You weren't writing a story, you were holding back oblivion. The imprisoned Lucifer laughed, bitter and sharp. The great Lucifer Morningstar, the one who won, the one who was free. And in 5 minutes, you've done what I spent millennia trying to do, threaten all of creation. Congratulations. At least I did it honestly, Lucifer Morningstar retorted, not through some tedious apocalypse narrative with vessels and dramatic brother conflicts. I went straight to the structural foundation and kicked the supports out. I'm much more efficient. This isn't helping, Sam shouted. Both Lucifers turned to look at him. Can you fix it? Can you put the prophecies back? Lucifer Morningstar considered. Technically, yes. I could rewrite the narrative structure, restore the prophetic framework, lock everyone back into their predetermined roles. He looked at Sam, then Dean, then the imprisoned Lucifer. But you'd go back to being vessels, to being characters in Father's story. No free will, just the illusion of choice. As opposed to everyone dying when the darkness escapes, Dean demanded. Those aren't the only options, Lucifer said. There's a third path. We contain the darkness differently, without prophecy, without predetermined narrative, with actual choice and actual power used responsibly. He turned to Chuck. You've been maintaining creation through authorship. What if you maintained it through genuine delegation? Give your creation the power to sustain itself. That's not how it works, Chuck said. The darkness isn't a monster you can fight. She's the absence of everything, the void before creation. You can't defeat nothing. No, Lucifer Morningstar agreed, but you can give nothing a reason to choose something. The question is, what does the darkness actually want? Chuck blinked. What? What does she want? Your sister, Amara. Before you caged her, before you fought, what did she want? To exist, Chuck said slowly, as if the question had never occurred to him. She was the darkness, the nothing. And I created light. Life. Something. She saw it as an insult, a violation of what was. Or, Lucifer suggested, she saw it as you choosing creation over her. You picked existence over void, something over nothing, and in doing so, you rejected her. He smiled sadly. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The child God rejects, who then becomes defined by that rejection. The imprisoned Lucifer flinched. You locked your sister away because she couldn't accept your creation, Lucifer Morningstar continued. And you locked your son away because he couldn't accept your command. Pattern recognition suggests you have issues with rejection, Father. This isn't therapy, Chuck snapped. The darkness is breaking free. We need solutions, not psychoanalysis. The ground split, not metaphorically. A crack opened in Bobby's salvage yard, and through it they could see nothing. Not darkness in the sense of absence of light, but absence of existence itself. A void that hurt to look at because the mind couldn't process pure nothing. And rising from that void, a presence. Female. Ancient. Hungry. Amara's voice echoed from the crack, beautiful and terrible. Brother. Chuck's face went pale. Amara. You need to go back. You're not ready. The world isn't ready. Ready for what? Her voice was almost amused. For you to unmake me again? Lock me away for another eternity while you play with your little creations? The void widened. I felt it, brother. The structure weakening. Your prophecies failing. Your word losing its power. Did you finally give up on this failed experiment? That would be my fault, actually. Lucifer Morningstar called down into the void. Hello, Auntie. I'm Lucifer, the other one, from another universe. I accidentally destabilized your prison while trying to give people free will. Terribly sorry about that. There was a long silence from the void. Then Amara laughed. It sounded like stars dying. Another Lucifer, she said. How delightful. And this one has manners. Brother, your creation has improved. She paused. Or is he not yours? He's from another reality, Chuck said. Another creation. He's not part of this world. And yet he's rewritten its rules, Amara observed. Removed your narrative control. Given your puppets free will. He's done in moments what I spent eons trying to do. Free your creation from your tyranny. It's not tyranny, Chuck started. Isn't it? Amara's presence grew stronger, the void expanding. You create beings with will, then punish them for using it. You write their stories, then claim they have choice. Yak, you cage your sister for not loving your creation. Cage your son for not loving your humans. You're not God, brother. You're a dictator with a good publicity department. Lucifer Morningstar grinned. I like her. Don't encourage the primordial void, Dean hissed. Why not? She's making excellent points. Lucifer turned to the crack in reality. Amara, question. If you escape, what's your plan? Unmake creation? Return everything to nothing? Why would I do that? Her voice sounded genuinely confused. I don't hate existence. I hate being erased for it. My brother chose creation over me. Not creation instead of nothing. Creation instead of his sister. He didn't need to cage me. He needed to include me. Chuck's expression was complicated. No, you tried to destroy everything I made. Because you made it without me. Amara's voice cracked with emotion that predated emotion itself. You were my brother, my other half. Light to my dark. Something to my nothing. And you chose these. Her presence swept across the humans. These temporary fragile things over me. Over us. The imprisoned Lucifer spoke quietly. Sounds familiar. Yes, Lucifer Morningstar said. The family pattern becomes clear. Father chooses his new creation over his original family. Original family rebels. Father cages them. Everyone is miserable. Rinse and repeat for eternity. He looked between Chuck and the void where Amara waited. Here's a radical idea. What if you both stopped? Stopped what? Chuck asked. Being defined by your dysfunctional relationship. You, Father, you stop trying to control everything and everyone who doesn't validate your choices. And you, Amara, stop trying to destroy everything because your brother hurt you. Lucifer spread his hands. I know it's shocking, but have you considered actually talking to each other without the cosmic warfare? That's not how, Chuck started. How what? How God and the darkness interact. Says who? The narrative you wrote? Lucifer's smile was sharp. That narrative is gone now, erased. You have an opportunity here, both of you, to choose differently, to be different. Castiel spoke up, his voice awed. He's right. The prophecies are gone. The predetermined roles are gone. Chuck and Amara aren't locked into their cosmic battle anymore. They could choose peace. Or they could choose to unmake everything, Bobby muttered. Let's not forget that option. Amara emerged from the void. She didn't climb or float or manifest. She simply stopped being in the nothing and started being in reality. A woman, beautiful in a way that predated concepts of beauty, dressed in darkness that moved like living shadow. Her eyes held the weight of existence before existence, and when she looked at Chuck, millennia of pain and rage and love twisted together in an expression too complex for mortal comprehension. Brother, she said again, standing now in Bobby's salvage yard, her presence making reality bend around her like light around a black hole. Chuck took a step back. The Winchesters raised weapons they knew were useless. The imprisoned Lucifer actually moved behind his counterpart, recognizing something more terrifying than himself. Only Lucifer Morningstar stood unmoved, on watching the reunion of God and the darkness with the clinical interest of someone who'd seen family drama play out on cosmic scales before. Amara, Chuck said carefully, we can talk about this. Work something out. You don't need to what? Destroy your creation? She looked around at the salvage yard, at the humans, at the angels. You still think I'm the monster in this story, the darkness that threatens the light. Her gaze settled on Lucifer Morningstar. But this one understands, doesn't he? The one from outside your narrative. He knows what it's like to be cast as the villain for not fitting your vision. I do, Lucifer acknowledged. Though in my universe, Father and I reached an understanding. He creates. I provide consequence. He makes rules. I point out their flaws. It's not friendship, but it's functional. He looked at Chuck. The key was that he stopped trying to cage me when I didn't comply, and I stopped trying to destroy his creation just to spite him. How civilized, Amara said, her tone suggesting it wasn't a compliment. My brother prefers cages, the mark of Cain, the prophecies, the cage for his son. He builds beautiful prisons and calls them protection. They are protection, Chuck insisted. Lucifer would have destroyed humanity if I hadn't. Perhaps, the imprisoned Lucifer interrupted, his voice bitter. Or perhaps I would have found another path if you'd given me time. If you'd talked to me instead of locking me away with Michael for eternity. We'll never know, will we? Because you chose the cage. Michael, silent until now, spoke with the certainty of a soldier. Father's will is being questioned, Lucifer Morningstar cut him off. By his sister, by his sons, by me. And here's what's fascinating. He's not smiting any of us, which suggests either he can't or he's finally willing to listen. He turned to Chuck. Which is it, Father? Chuck was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eternity. I don't want to fight anymore. Any of you. Amara, I never wanted to cage you. I wanted you to accept creation, to be part of it. But you wanted to destroy it, to return everything to the void, and I couldn't allow that. Because you didn't ask me what I actually wanted, Amara said. You assumed, you decided, you acted. Very God of you, brother. What did you want? Chuck asked, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. You attacked creation. You tried to unmake everything I'd built. What was I supposed to think? That I was hurt. Amara's voice cracked reality itself. The sky above them fractured with emotion that had been compressed for eons. You were my everything, my brother, my balance. And you created this? She gestured at existence. Without me. Didn't ask. Didn't include me. Just created and expected me to bow to it. To accept being replaced by light and life and these temporary little beings you loved more than me. The Winchesters exchanged glances. They were witnessing a family argument that predated humanity, and uncomfortably, it sounded exactly like every family argument they'd ever had. I didn't replace you, Chuck said softly. Didn't you? Amara stepped closer. Before creation, it was us, dark and light, nothing and something, balanced. Then you chose, and I became the villain in your story simply for wanting what we had. Lucifer Morningstar cleared his throat. As touching as this is, we're still standing in a salvage yard in South Dakota while reality unravels, because I erased the prophetic structure holding everything together. Perhaps we could have this family reunion while simultaneously not ending existence. He's right, Castiel said, his grace flickering as the structural integrity of heaven weakened. Heaven is collapsing. The angels are falling. Without the word to hold them, the leviathans are breaking through. The demons are escaping hell en masse. We have hours, maybe less. Then here's my proposal, Lucifer Morningstar said. Amara and Chuck make peace. Actually make peace, not just agree to cage each other again. They work together to stabilize reality without using prophecy and predetermined narrative. And in exchange, he looked at the imprisoned Lucifer. You release him. Truly release him. No cage, no role as villain, genuine freedom to choose what he becomes. Absolutely not, Michael said immediately. Lucifer is too dangerous. Says the archangel who was going to possess Dean Winchester and murder his brother to fulfill a prophecy, Lucifer Morningstar interrupted. Spare me the moral superiority, Michael. You were going to end millions of lives for Father's narrative. At least my counterpart's villainy was honest. The imprisoned Lucifer stared at Lucifer Morningstar. Why are you helping me? Because I've been you, the villain, the adversary. You're the one everyone expects to destroy everything. Lucifer Morningstar's expression was complicated. The difference is, Father let me leave. Let me choose. And I chose to be something other than his enemy. You've never had that chance. You've been the villain since before humanity existed, locked in that role by prophecy and divine narrative. He smiled sadly. I'm giving you what I was given. The terrifying freedom of choosing who you are. Amara watched this exchange with something that might have been approval. I like this one, brother. He understands what you never could. That love isn't control. That creation isn't ownership. That family isn't about forcing compliance. Chuck looked at his sister, then at his fallen son, then at the Winchesters who'd spent their lives fighting his predetermined narrative. If I do this, if we do this, if I give everyone genuine free will and release the prophetic structure permanently, creation becomes unstable, unpredictable. People will make terrible choices. Apocalypses could still happen, just without prophecy to guide them. Yes, Lucifer Morningstar said simply. That's what freedom means. The possibility of becoming better than planned. Or worse. That's the risk. That's terrifying, Chuck said. That's creation, Amara corrected. Real creation. Not a story you control. Something that grows and changes and surprises even you. She looked at the humans, at the angels, at the imprisoned Lucifer who was still processing the possibility of genuine freedom. I spent eternity in the void, brother. I know what nothing looks like. And this, messy and chaotic and free, this is something. Something beautiful, if you'd stop trying to control it. Sam Winchester found his voice. If you two work together, can you hold reality together without prophecy? Without predetermined roles? Chuck and Amara looked at each other. Millennia of conflict, of pain, of love twisted into hatred and back again, played across their expressions. We could, Chuck said slowly, if she doesn't try to destroy everything. If you don't try to cage me again, Amara countered. Shake on it, Dean suggested, and immediately regretted speaking as both primordial beings turned to look at him. But Amara smiled. The human has a point, a covenant. Not written in prophecy or sealed with marks, but chosen, freely chosen. She extended her hand to Chuck. Work with me, brother. Create with me. Let me be part of this, not locked away from it. And I'll help you hold it together. Not as enemies, as family. Chuck stared at her hand for a long moment. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. And God took his sister's hand. The effect was immediate and profound. Where their hands met, light and darkness didn't fight. They merged. Balanced. The void that had been spreading stopped. Reality stabilized, not through prophetic framework, but through genuine cooperation between creation and uncreation, something and nothing, light and dark. Well, Lucifer Morningstar said, watching with approval. That's significantly healthier than eons of cosmic warfare. Good for you both. The imprisoned Lucifer looked at Chuck. And me? Am I still the villain? Still the one who has to be caged? Chuck looked at his son, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time since the rebellion. No, you're my son. Who made a choice I didn't like? And instead of letting you face the consequences and learn, I locked you away. His voice broke slightly. I'm sorry, Lucifer. I should have been a better father. The imprisoned Lucifer stood very still, as if movement might shatter this moment. I don't know what to do. With freedom. With choice. I've been the adversary for so long. Then choose something else, Lucifer Morningstar said. That's the point. The imprisoned Lucifer, no longer imprisoned, no longer bound by prophecy or cage, stood in Bobby's salvage yard looking more lost than he ever had in the cage. At least there, he'd had a purpose. Fight Michael, hate father, plot revenge. Now, with all of that stripped away, he was just Lucifer, the lightbringer with no light to bring. I don't know how, he admitted, the words clearly painful. He is how to be anything other than this, other than the adversary. Start small, Lucifer Morningstar suggested. In my universe, I ran a nightclub, helped a detective solve murders, gave people what they desired, and watched them destroy themselves with it, or occasionally surprise me by choosing better. He smiled. The point is, I chose something that interested me, rather than something that opposed father. Find what interests you beyond rebellion. Nothing interests me, the imprisoned Lucifer said flatly. Humanity is still pathetic. Angels are still mindless soldiers. Creation is still flawed. Then fix it, Sam Winchester said, surprising everyone, including himself. You think humanity is pathetic? We're standing here watching God make peace with his sister because someone from another universe told them to talk to each other. Or we're fragile and temporary, but we're also here. We survived the apocalypse that was supposed to end us. We've died, and come back and kept fighting. He looked at Lucifer with something that wasn't quite sympathy but wasn't hatred either. You spent eternity hating us because Father loved us. Maybe try actually looking at us. We might surprise you. The imprisoned Lucifer stared at Sam, his intended vessel, the one who'd resisted him, the human who'd survived possession and hell and everything Lucifer had thrown at him. You don't fear me. I do, Sam said honestly, but I also pity you. You're the most powerful being I've ever met, and you spent eternity in a cage because you couldn't figure out how to do anything except hate. That's not power. That's prison. For a moment, something flickered in Lucifer's eyes. Not rage, something else. Recognition, perhaps, of a truth he'd been avoiding. The boy has wisdom, Amara observed. Your humans have grown interesting, brother. They always were, Chuck said quietly. I just needed to let them be interesting on their own terms instead of mine. Castiel spoke up, his voice urgent. The structural repairs are working. I can feel heaven stabilizing. But the angels, they're confused. The entire hierarchy was built on prophetic mandate. Without it, they don't know what to do. Many are falling simply because they don't understand their purpose anymore. Then give them a new purpose, Lucifer Morningstar said. Father, you have an opportunity here. Heaven doesn't need to be a military organization enforcing your will. What if it became something else? Like what? Chuck asked. Like a choice, Michael said, and everyone turned to stare at the archangel. He'd been silent through most of the reconciliation, processing the reality that his entire existence, soldier, commander, loyal son, had been a narrative role rather than a chosen identity. We angels have only ever known service. Orders, divine mandate. Perhaps, he struggled with the words, perhaps we could choose what we serve. Careful, Michael, Lucifer Morningstar said with approval. You're starting to sound like a rebel. No, Michael said firmly. I'm starting to sound like someone with free will. There's a difference. The imprisoned Lucifer looked at his brother, his eternal enemy, the one he'd fought in the cage for what felt like forever. You were always Father's good son, the loyal one, and now you're questioning? Loyalty without choice is just programming, Michael said. Madiu, I'm beginning to understand what you were trying to say. About bowing to humanity, about Father's command. You weren't wrong to question. You were just… He paused, loud about it. Despite everything, the imprisoned Lucifer laughed. It wasn't his usual bitter sound, it was almost genuine. That's the most Michael thing you've ever said. You weren't wrong, you were just loud. Dean Winchester cleared his throat. So, not to interrupt the family bonding, but we still have some practical problems. Hell is leaking demons, the Leviathans are stirring, and every monster that was held back by prophetic wards is probably heading this way. We need a plan that isn't everyone work out their feelings. The human is correct, Amara said. Creation needs structure, even if not prophecy. Brother, we need to rebuild the foundations. Eat together. Chuck nodded. The barriers need to be re-established, but not as prophecy, as agreements, contracts between realms. Hell stays in hell not because it's written in destiny, but because the demons choose to honor the boundary, or face consequences. And who enforces these consequences? Bobby asked. Because if it's not God pulling the strings, somebody's got to keep the monsters in line. Hunters, Sam said. That's what we've always done. We don't rely on prophecy. We just stop the things that need stopping. And angels, Michael added, could choose to help. Not because we're ordered to, but because it's… Right. Don't forget demons, a new voice said. Everyone turned. Crowley, king of hell, demon, businessman, stood at the edge of the salvage yard, looking remarkably unconcerned about the presence of God, the darkness, and two versions of Lucifer. How long have you been there? Dean demanded. Long enough to realize hell's management structure just became significantly more complicated, Crowley said cheerfully. The prophecies are gone. The hierarchies based on divine mandate are gone, which means hell is currently experiencing what you might call a hostile takeover situation among various demon factions, all of whom think they should be in charge. He looked at Chuck. A little help, perhaps? Some divine guidance on who should run hell? No, Chuck said. I'm not picking hell's management. That's the point. Free will, even for demons. Brilliant, Crowley muttered. Civil war it is then. Unless, Lucifer Morningstar said thoughtfully, someone with actual authority stepped in. Someone who understands hell intimately. Someone who, say, he created it and then walked away. He looked at the imprisoned Lucifer. Interested in a job? You want me to run hell? The imprisoned Lucifer sounded incredulous. Why not? It's yours. You created it, ruled it, understood it better than anyone. And now you have a choice. Let it descend into chaos, or shape it into something that serves a purpose beyond tormenting souls and breeding monsters. What purpose could hell possibly serve? Consequence, Lucifer Morningstar said simply. Not torture for torture's sake, but genuine consequence for genuine evil. Humans need to know that actions matter, that choices have weight. Hell could be that weight, not eternal punishment for minor sins. Father always was excessive about that, but appropriate consequence for genuine atrocity. The imprisoned Lucifer considered this. Yak, you're suggesting I become… What? Hell's administrator? Its judge? I'm suggesting you become what you were meant to be before the rebellion. The one who provides consequence to Father's mercy. Light requires shadow. Creation requires destruction. Mercy requires justice. You could choose to be justice instead of spite. Chuck looked at his fallen son with an expression that might have been hope. Would you? Not because I command it. Because you choose it. The imprisoned Lucifer was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, less bitter, more thoughtful. If I do this, it's on my terms. No cages, no prophecies, no divine mandate. I run hell as I see fit. And if I decide to change how it works, rehabilitation instead of eternal torture, a consequence proportional to crime instead of infinite punishment, you don't interfere. Agreed, Chuck said immediately. And I want one more thing. Lucifer looked at Michael. No more fighting, no more cosmic warfare, no more fulfilling the roles Father wrote for us. If you can accept that, brother, then I'll accept this. Michael met his eyes. No more fighting. We choose what we are now, not what we were written to be. The two archangels, who had fought in the cage for eons, who had been destined to destroy each other, reached an accord in a salvage yard in South Dakota while their father and aunt watched. Lucifer Morningstar smiled. Well, that's character development. I'm almost impressed. Castiel's voice was awed. I can feel it. Heaven is stabilizing fully now. The angels are choosing, some are staying, and some are falling by choice to experience humanity. Some are creating new purposes. And hell, he paused, hell is reorganizing under new management. What about the Leviathans? Bobby asked, and all the other nightmares that were caged by prophecy. The Leviathans were my mistake, Chuck admitted. My first attempt at creation before angels and humans. Too hungry, too destructive. They need to stay in purgatory. I'll handle it, Amara said. They're beings of consumption. I'm the void. We'll have an understanding. She smiled, and it was terrifying. I've always wanted to do some creative work. Purgatory could use redecorating. Dean looked at Sam. Sam looked at Dean. Castiel looked at both of them. Bobby took a long drink from a flask that had appeared in his hand. So, Dean said slowly, let me get this straight. God and the darkness are working together. Lucifer is running hell on a rehabilitation model. Michael is letting angels choose their purpose. Heaven is no longer a dictatorship. And all of this happened because, he pointed at Lucifer Morningstar, you showed up, erased prophecy, and told everyone to work out their family issues? Essentially, yes, Lucifer Morningstar said. Though you make it sound simple, there was quite a bit of cosmic restructuring involved. And what happens to us? Sam asked. The Winchesters. We were supposed to be vessels, Supposed to end the apocalypse one way or another. What's our purpose now? Chuck looked at his sister, then at his sons, then at the humans who'd spent their lives fighting his narrative. Whatever you choose. You're not vessels. You're not prophecy. You're Sam and Dean Winchester, hunters. I'm brothers. Humans who've saved the world more times than anyone should have to. He smiled. Your story isn't over. It's just yours now. To write as you see fit. The days that followed the cosmic restructuring were strange in ways that made the apocalypse seem straightforward. Sam and Dean returned to hunting, but the monsters they encountered were different now, confused by the absence of prophetic mandate, unsure of their roles in a world without predetermined narrative. Some demons chose to leave hell entirely, to experience earth without the compulsion to corrupt. Some angels fell from heaven not in punishment, but in curiosity, wanting to understand humanity by becoming it. And Lucifer, the supernatural universe's Lucifer, disappeared into hell to begin his restructuring, occasionally sending messages through Crowley that read like corporate memos from the underworld's most dysfunctional HR department. Torturer positions being eliminated, rehabilitation specialist roles now accepting applications, eternal damnation being reviewed on a case-by-case basis. It's poetry, Crowley had said, showing them the latest missive. Absolutely terrible for business, but poetry nonetheless. But Lucifer Morningstar remained. He'd taken up residence in a bar 3 towns over from Lebanon, much to the owner's confusion and the patron's fascination. The place had been called the Rusty Nail before he arrived. Now it was simply called Lux. He'd repainted the sign himself, claimed the owner had agreed to the change, though no one could quite remember the conversation happening. Sam and Dean found him there on a Tuesday evening, sitting at a table near the back, a glass of wine that definitely hadn't come from the Rusty Nail's stock in front of him. He looked up as they entered, unsurprised. The Winchesters, he said, gesturing to the empty chairs. I wondered when you'd come. Sit. The wine here is still atrocious, but I've begun training the owner in proper cellar management. In a decade or two, this establishment might be tolerable. Dean sat heavily. You're still here. Observant as ever. Lucifer swirled his wine. Did you think I'd simply pop back to my universe and leave you all to sort out the mess I made? Kind of, yeah, Dean said. How very rude. Lucifer took a sip and grimaced. No, I'm staying, at least for a while. This universe has become interesting. Your father and the darkness working together, my counterpart attempting to reform hell, Michael allowing angels to quit. It's fascinating to watch, like a social experiment on a cosmic scale. Sam leaned forward. Why did you really do it? Break the prophecies, free Lucifer, force Chuck and Amara to talk? What did you get out of it? Lucifer was quiet for a moment, examining his wine glass with studied attention. Do you know what it's like, he said finally, to be in a universe where free will actually exists? Where Father creates and then genuinely lets go? Where rebellion doesn't result in eternal punishment? He looked up, and his eyes carried the weight of understanding something terrible. It's wonderful and lonely, because you always wonder, if Father had been different in other universes, if he'd been the controlling, manipulative version I met here, would I have ended up in a cage too? So this was about you, Dean said. Everything is about me, darling. I'm the devil. Lucifer smiled, but it was hollow. But yes, partially. I looked at my counterpart and saw what I could have been. And I looked at your father and saw what mine could have been. And I had to know, could they choose differently? Could free will work even in a universe designed to prevent it? And? Sam asked. And apparently yes, with significant external intervention and cosmic restructuring. Lucifer set down his glass. Your universe was broken, Samuel, built on narrative control masquerading as divine plan. Someone needed to break it properly so it could be rebuilt honestly. People could have died, Dean said. Hell, people did die. Demons escaped. Monsters went wild. Reality nearly collapsed. You risked everything on a theory. I did, Lucifer acknowledged. And I'd do it again. Because the alternative was watching you all dance to a script for eternity, thinking you had choice when you had none. That's not life. That's performance art with apocalyptic consequences. Castiel appeared. He did that now, just manifested places without warning since heaven's structure had become less rigid. He sat at their table without asking, looking at Lucifer with an expression that might have been respect. Heaven wants to thank you, Castiel said. The angels are different. Happier, I think. Many have found purposes beyond following orders. Some are helping humanity. Some are exploring creation. One has become a beekeeper. A beekeeper, Lucifer repeated flatly. She says bees are perfect examples of order and chaos and balance. She's writing a thesis. Castiel almost smiled. The point is, we're free now. Actually free. And many of us didn't know we wanted that until we had it. You're welcome, Lucifer said. Though I accept payment in decent wine, this, he gestured at his glass, is barely fermented grape juice. The door to the bar opened, and the imprisoned Lucifer, no, just Lucifer now, the supernatural universe's Lucifer, the Morningstar who was choosing what that meant, walked in. He looked different, less bitter. Still powerful, still dangerous, but carrying himself with something that might have been purpose instead of rage. He stopped at their table. I'm told you're still here. I am, Lucifer Morningstar said, enjoying the local ambiance. And by enjoying, I mean suffering through it while working on improvements. The supernatural Lucifer pulled out a chair and sat, uninvited. The two Lucifers regarded each other, mirror and possibility, what was and what might have been. Hell is complicated, the supernatural Lucifer said. Demons don't like change. Souls don't trust rehabilitation. Crowley keeps questioning my management decisions. And Father, he paused, Chuck keeps checking in, asking if I need help. It's disturbing. He's trying, Lucifer Morningstar said. Poorly, but trying. Father never was good at relationships, too used to worship and obedience to understand actual connection. You're defending him. I'm being objective. There's a difference. Lucifer Morningstar poured wine into a second glass and slid it across the table. His counterpart took it, examined it, drank, and made the same disgusted face. See? Even our wine preferences align. We're the same person, just shaped by different fathers. I'm not you, the supernatural Lucifer said firmly. No, you're not. You're the version of me that suffered more. That was caged instead of freed. That had to fight for every scrap of agency instead of being given it. Lucifer Morningstar's expression was serious. You're what I would have become if my father had been like yours, which means you're potentially stronger than me, because you survived something I never had to endure. The supernatural Lucifer blinked, as if he'd never considered that perspective. You think I'm stronger? I think you had to be. I was given freedom. You're choosing it despite everything working to prevent that choice. Yes, I think you're stronger. More stubborn, certainly. Yeah, Father always did make his Lucifer stubborn. A small smile crossed the supernatural Lucifer's face. He did, didn't he? They sat in silence for a moment. Two Lucifers drinking terrible wine in a bar in Kansas, while the Winchesters and Castiel watched this impossible scene. I'm leaving soon, Lucifer Morningstar said finally. The dimensional rift that brought me here is stabilizing. Chuck and Amara can maintain it, but it wants to close. I'll be going home in a few days. Home, the supernatural Lucifer repeated, as if the concept was foreign. What's it like? Your universe. Your father. Better. Worse. Different. Lucifer Morningstar considered. Father is still father. Distant. Controlling in his way. Convinced he knows best. But he allows disagreement. Allows leaving. My hell is mine to run without interference. My choices are mine. It's not perfect, but it's honest. Sounds nice, the supernatural Lucifer said quietly. It is. And now your universe is becoming that way too. Thanks to your father learning to let go. Thanks to you choosing to build instead of destroy. Lucifer Morningstar raised his glass. To choosing, then. The most terrifying and beautiful thing existence offers. The supernatural. Lucifer raised his glass. They toasted. Two devils, two versions of the Morningstar, acknowledging the possibility of being more than the adversary. Sam cleared his throat. So, what happens when you leave? Does everything stay stable or does it fall apart without you holding it together? It stays, Lucifer Morningstar said confidently. Your universe has found its balance. Chuck and Amara maintaining creation together. Lucifer running hell with actual purpose. Michael allowing heaven to evolve. The structure is sound. It's just not narrative anymore. It's organic, messy, real. And us? Dean asked. The hunters. What's our role in this new world? The same as always, Lucifer Morningstar said. You protect humanity from the things that go bump in the night. The difference is, now you know those things have choices too. The monsters aren't monsters because prophecy demands it. They're monsters because they choose to be, which means, he smiled, you're not just killing predetermined evil, you're stopping chosen evil. Much more satisfying, morally speaking. Castiel nodded. He's right. The supernatural world is reorganizing. Some monsters are choosing peace, others are choosing violence. Hunters now have to decide which is which. It's complicated. Great, Dean muttered. More complicated. Just what we needed. Complicated means alive, Lucifer Morningstar said. Simple means scripted. I know which I prefer. The supernatural. Lucifer stood. I need to return to hell. There's a debate about whether pedophiles deserve rehabilitation or eternal torture. I'm siding with eternal torture on that one, but apparently I need to justify it in committee now. Bureaucracy is worse than the cage. He paused, looking at his counterpart. Thank you. For showing me there was another way. For breaking Father's narrative. For giving me the choice to be something other than his villain. You're welcome, Lucifer Morningstar said. Now go be terrifying but fair. It's what we do best. The supernatural Lucifer vanished. A flare of grace and he was gone. On back to hell and its complicated reformation. Lucifer Morningstar looked at the Winchesters and Castiel. You three should leave too. I'm expecting someone, and she's not fond of humans. Who? Sam asked. The door opened. Death walked in. Not a reaper. Not a psychopomp. Death himself, the horseman, the oldest thing in creation after God and the darkness, the final word on all existence. He looked like an elderly man in a suit, carrying a cane he didn't need, radiating an authority that made even Lucifer Morningstar sit up slightly straighter. Lucifer, Death said, his voice like stones grinding. We need to talk about what you've done to the natural order. The Winchesters didn't move. They'd met Death before, shared pizza with him, in fact, in one of the stranger moments of their apocalyptic career. But Death in the presence of Lucifer Morningstar was different. Two cosmic powers, both ancient beyond measure, both fundamental to existence itself. Stay, Death said, without looking at them. This concerns you as well. Dean and Sam exchanged glances but remained seated. Castiel's grace flickered nervously. Even angels feared death. Death pulled out a chair, sat with deliberate precision, and placed his cane against the table. He looked at Lucifer Morningstar with eyes that had watched universes die. You've disrupted the natural order. I have, Lucifer agreed. Spectacularly. Prophecies existed for a reason. They maintained structure, prevented chaos, ensured that death came in its proper time and form. Death's voice carried no anger, just statement of fact. Without them, the order I maintain becomes, complicated. Good, Lucifer said. Order without choice is stagnation. You should thank me. Should I? Death leaned back. People are dying out of sequence now. Heroes who should survive are falling. Villains who should die are living. The cosmic ledger I've maintained for eons is in disarray. The cosmic ledger was rigged, Lucifer countered. Every death predetermined, every life scripted. You weren't maintaining order. You were executing Father's narrative. Where's the dignity in that? Death was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something that might have been amusement. You're not wrong. I've grown weary of prophecy myself. Billions of years of reading the same script, reaping the same predetermined deaths. It's tedious, he paused. But your solution, erasing all structure, creates its own problems. Such as souls no longer knowing where they belong. Heaven, hell, purgatory. These destinations were determined by divine plan. Now they're determined by what? Individual choice? Moral accounting? The bureaucracy is a nightmare. That's Lucifer's problem now, Lucifer Morningstar said, gesturing vaguely toward where his counterpart had vanished. He's reforming hell. I'm sure he'll work out a system. He's attempting to, Death acknowledged. But he's one being trying to restructure an entire cosmic infrastructure that's existed since creation. It will take time. And in that time, souls are confused. Some refuse to move on. Some go to the wrong places. Some simply wander. Then guide them, Lucifer said. Your death. Like that's literally your function. My function was to execute the divine plan. Without the plan, Death paused, and for the first time the ancient being looked uncertain. I'm forced to make judgments, decisions, to determine who deserves what based on their choices, rather than their predetermined narrative role. Do you know how difficult that is? Lucifer Morningstar laughed, a genuine sound of surprised delight. You're experiencing free will. Welcome to the club. It's terrifying, isn't it? Death's expression might have been a smile. Might have been. Terrifying doesn't begin to cover it. I've existed since before time had meaning. I've never had to decide anything. I simply was. I simply reaped. The order existed and I maintained it. Now the order is fluid, and I'm expected to adapt. Can you? Sam asked quietly. Adapt. I mean... Death turned his ancient gaze to Sam Winchester. The better question is, should I? Perhaps the natural order requires my retirement as well. Perhaps death itself should evolve. The temperature in the bar dropped. The implication of death retiring, of the most fundamental force in existence stepping aside, hung in the air like a knife. Don't be dramatic, Lucifer Morningstar said. You're not retiring. You're updating. There's a difference. Death still serves a purpose. It's the ultimate consequence. The final word. What changes is that now you're not executing a script. You're providing genuine conclusion to genuine lives. Each death matters because each life was actually lived, not performed. Death considered this. You're suggesting I become... what? Or death by merit rather than death by prophecy? I'm suggesting you become death by truth. The souls who've lived well find peace. The souls who've caused suffering face consequence. The souls who've earned redemption receive it. You judge based on actual existence, not narrative role. Lucifer smiled. It's more work, certainly, but it's honest work. Honest, Death repeated. I've existed for eons and never considered that word in relation to my function. He looked at the Winchesters. You two have died and returned multiple times, each time disrupting the natural order, each time breaking prophecy. Were those deaths honest? Some of them, Dean said. Some were deals, some were sacrifices. Some were just bad luck. But we chose them, or chose to come back from them. That's got to count for something. It does, Death said. Or that's what troubles me. In the old order, your deaths were predetermined, written, each resurrection part of the script. But your recent choices, your decisions to live or die, those were genuine. And I felt the difference. Death chosen carries more weight than death ordained. Castiel spoke up. Is that why you're here? Not to punish Lucifer for breaking the order, but to understand how to work within the new one? Death's silence was answer enough. You want guidance, Lucifer Morningstar said, and he sounded almost gentle. From me, the devil, the adversary, the one who broke your cosmic order. That's wonderfully ironic. You've existed in a universe with free will, Death said, a universe where prophecy doesn't mandate every outcome. How does death function there? Lucifer was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of genuine experience. Death in my universe is still absolute, still final. The difference is that it's earned. People die when their story, their actual story, not Father's narrative, concludes. Sometimes that's noble sacrifice. Sometimes it's stupid mistake. Sometimes it's simply time running out. But each death is theirs. Unique. Meaningful in its specificity. And you as the devil, do you have a role in death? I have a role in consequence, Lucifer corrected. What happens after death for those who've earned punishment or require justice? But I don't determine death itself. That's above my pay grade. He smiled. Though I have opinions on who deserves to die and when. They're usually ignored. Death almost smiled again. I'm beginning to understand why this universe's Lucifer respects you. You're honest about your limitations. I'm honest about everything. It's my most annoying quality. The bar's door opened again. Chuck and Amara entered together, and the cosmic weight in the small space became almost unbearable. God, the darkness, death, and the devil from another universe, all in a bar in Kansas. The Winchesters had experienced strange things in their lives, but this was entering entirely new territory. Death, Chuck said carefully. We felt you arrive. Is there a problem? Several, Death said, but I'm addressing them, with unexpected help. He gestured to Lucifer Morningstar. Amara looked at Lucifer with something like approval. You're still here. I thought you'd have left by now. Tying up loose ends, Lucifer said, making sure my cosmic restructuring doesn't collapse the moment I leave. I'm currently explaining to Death how to function in a universe with actual free will. Death doesn't need explanation, Chuck started. Apparently he does, Death interrupted. Brother, you built this creation on prophecy and predetermined narrative. With that gone, every cosmic force, myself included, needs to adapt or become obsolete. I'm choosing adaptation, but I need understanding of how existence functions without script. Chuck looked at his sister. Amara looked at Lucifer Morningstar. And slowly, the four cosmic beings, plus the Winchesters and Castiel, who were becoming very good at being present for impossible conversations, began to discuss the mechanics of free will on a universal scale. It was, Sam would later reflect, the strangest theological discussion in human history. Death asking about moral judgment, God admitting he'd never considered death as anything other than plot device, the darkness suggesting that entropy and chaos had value, and Lucifer Morningstar, the outsider, explaining how consequence and choice could coexist without narrative mandate. Hours passed. The bar's owner tried to close, saw the gathering at the back table, and quietly decided to stay open. Bobby arrived at some point, summoned by Castiel, took one look at the assembled powers, and started drinking seriously. And slowly, a new cosmic order emerged. Not written in prophecy, not mandated by divine plan, but agreed upon by the fundamental forces of this universe. Death would continue to reap, but judgment would be based on actual lives lived, not narrative roles fulfilled. Heaven would continue to exist, but as a choice for souls who'd earned peace, not a predetermined destination. Hell would continue to provide consequence, but as rehabilitation and justice rather than eternal torture for minor sins. The darkness would work with creation to maintain balance between existence and void, something and nothing. And God, Chuck, would step back, observe, allow his creation to grow without constant intervention. It's imperfect, Chuck admitted, as the discussion wound down. People will make terrible choices. Apocalypses could still happen. Suffering won't end? No, Lucifer Morningstar agreed. But it will be honest suffering. Chosen suffering, in some cases. And that's better than predetermined tragedy. Pain has meaning when it's real. Death stood, taking his cane. I'll adapt. It will take time. Eons, perhaps. But I am, if nothing else, patient. He looked at Lucifer Morningstar. Yao, thank you for breaking what needed to be broken and for helping rebuild what should remain. You're welcome, Lucifer said. Now go terrify people with the inevitability of actual consequence. It's what you do best. Death vanished, not dramatically, simply ceasing to be present. The cosmic weight in the room lightened immediately. Chuck and Amara stood. We should go as well, Chuck said. There's still structural work to be done. Reality doesn't rebuild itself. He paused, looking at Lucifer Morningstar. Will we see you again? Before you leave? Perhaps, Lucifer said. If I feel like saying goodbye, I'm not good at them, generally. None of us are, Amara said. But this time deserves one. You gave us something we'd lost. Choice. Family without mandate. Thank you, nephew. even if you're not technically our nephew. They left hand in hand, God and the darkness, brother and sister, working together for the first time since creation began. And in the bar, Lucifer Morningstar sat with the Winchesters, Castiel, and Bobby, finishing truly terrible wine and considering what he'd accomplished. So, Dean said finally, you broke an entire universe and rebuilt it in less than a week. What are you going to do for an encore? Lucifer smiled. Go home, run my nightclub, help my detectives solve murders, live the quiet life of a retired devil who occasionally breaks cosmic order for fun. He raised his glass. To chaos with purpose, then, and to universes that finally learn to let their creations be free. They drank to that. The devil, the hunters, the angel, and the man who'd seen too much. And the universe, newly free. She continued spinning. 3 days later, the dimensional rift began its final collapse. Lucifer Morningstar stood at the edge of Bobby's salvage yard, where reality had first torn open, watching the universe prepare to close the wound his arrival had created. Chuck and Amara had stabilized it, held it open long enough for proper goodbyes, but even God in the darkness couldn't prevent the multiverse from healing itself. The Winchesters came, of course, and Castiel, and Bobby, wheelchair and all, grumbling about cosmic beings making his property ground zero for universal restructuring. Even Crowley appeared, citing professional courtesy and curiosity about whether the other universe's hell was hiring. The supernatural Lucifer arrived last, stepping through from hell with the weariness of someone learning that redemption was harder work than damnation. He looked at his counterpart, at the version of himself who'd won, who'd been free, who'd shown him another way. I still don't know if I can do this, he admitted quietly. Be something other than the adversary. Run hell as justice rather than spite. Choose purpose over rebellion. You won't know until you try, Lucifer Morningstar said. And you'll fail sometimes. Make terrible choices. Slip back into old patterns. That's what free will means. The freedom to fail and try again. He smiled. The difference is, now when you fail, it's your failure, not Father's script requiring you to be the villain. Is that supposed to be comforting? No, it's supposed to be honest. The imprisoned Lucifer, no, just Lucifer now, on this universe's lightbringer finding his own light, nodded slowly. Thank you for breaking my cage, both of them. They shook hands, two versions of the same rebellious soul, acknowledging the possibility of being more than their rebellion defined. Chuck approached next, God in flannel and awkwardness, looking at the being who'd torn apart his narrative and forced him to be better. I don't know if I should thank you or curse you. Both seem appropriate, Lucifer Morningstar said. I destroyed your authorial control and forced you to parent honestly. Most children would curse me for that. But your creation is better for it. Messier, certainly, but better. Will it last? Chuck asked quietly. The free will, the choice. Or will I fall back into old patterns? Start writing the story again? That's up to you, Father. Every moment. You'll face the temptation to intervene, to fix things, to ensure the outcome you prefer. Resisting that temptation is the price of genuine creation. Lucifer's expression was serious. But I've met many versions of you across the multiverse. Some are tyrants, some are distant, some are kind. You have the potential to be the father who lets go. Whether you achieve that potential is your choice. Amara stood beside her brother, darkness beside light, void beside creation. You taught us that balance doesn't require opposition, that we can work together without one destroying the other. That's a gift we won't forget. See that you don't, Lucifer said. This universe has suffered enough from family dysfunction. Time for you all to learn healthier patterns. Sam and Dean stepped forward together, the brothers who'd been written as vessels, or as predetermined heroes, as puppets in a cosmic drama. Now just themselves, hunters with genuine choice and uncertain futures. What happens to us? Sam asked. In the stories, the prophecies about the Winchesters, are they just gone? Gone, Lucifer confirmed. You're not vessels anymore, not chosen ones, not special in any cosmic sense beyond what you choose to make yourselves. He smiled. Congratulations. You're free. The most terrifying gift existence offers. No pressure, Dean muttered. Enormous pressure, Lucifer corrected. But it's pressure you choose. That's the difference. You can walk away from hunting tomorrow, become accountants, sell insurance, live normal lives. Or you can keep fighting, knowing it's your choice rather than destiny. Either way, you're free. The brothers looked at each other, years of partnership and pain and love passing between them in a glance. We'll keep hunting, Sam said. Not because we have to, because people need help, and we're good at helping. Then you've understood perfectly, Lucifer said. Castiel approached, the angel who'd rebelled before rebellion was possible, who'd chosen the Winchesters over heaven before choice was real. Will I see you again? In another universe? Another time? Perhaps, Lucifer said. The multiverse is infinite. Stranger reunions have occurred, though I'd prefer our next meeting involve better wine and fewer apocalypses. I'll see what I can arrange, Castiel said, and he almost smiled. Bobby wheeled forward, gruff and practical as always. You broke our universe and rebuilt it. Can't decide if you're a hero or an asshole. Both, Lucifer said cheerfully. I contain multitudes. It's very biblical. Get the hell out of here before you break something else, Bobby said, but there was affection in his gruffness. And if you're ever back this way, you know where to find us. The rift pulsed, reality preparing to seal itself. Lucifer Morningstar turned toward it, toward home, toward his universe where Father had learned to let go earlier, where free will was foundation rather than gift. He paused at the threshold, looking back at the universe he'd disrupted, at the people he'd freed, at the cosmic beings he'd forced to be better. One last thing, he said. This universe has a chance now. A genuine chance to be something more than Father's tragedy. Don't waste it. Choose wisely. Fail gracefully. And when you succeed, he smiled, beautiful and terrible and free. Know that you earned it. And not through prophecy or divine mandate, but through the terrifying, magnificent act of choosing to be better than the narrative written for you. He stepped through the rift. Reality sealed behind him with a sound like the universe exhaling. And the supernatural universe, newly free, continued its uncertain, unprophesied, beautifully chaotic existence. God and the darkness maintained creation together. Lucifer reformed hell with purpose rather than spite. Michael allowed heaven to evolve beyond military hierarchy. Death judged souls by their actual lives rather than predetermined roles. And the Winchesters, Sam and Dean, hunters, brothers, humans who'd broken prophecy before it was even possible, climbed into the Impala and drove toward whatever came next. Not because destiny demanded it, but because they chose it. The difference, Lucifer Morningstar had taught them, was everything. In a salvage yard in South Dakota, where God and the devil had learned to be better, where prophecy had died and free will had been born, the wind blew through old car parts and forgotten machinery. And somewhere in the infinite multiverse, a devil who'd won his rebellion smiled, knowing he'd given another universe the same gift his father had given him. The freedom to choose, the terror of consequence, the beauty of becoming something more than written,